Hi, everyone. Vasu Party here with the VPartySports Podcast for this Friday, November 11th, 2022. Coming up on this episode, we've got a lot of NBA to talk about, some NHL games, college football tonight, and college basketball gets underway, including a very big game on the USS, I forgot what the name of the ship was, but down in San Diego, the USS Abraham, that's what it is, where number 2 Gonzaga will host Michigan State. We will get to all that in a little bit, but let's preview a little bit of the NFL, Thursday Night Football. Last night, Thursday Night Football, the Carolina Panthers and the Atlanta Falcons were in Carolina. First, we'll tell you that we're sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose. Mention the VPartySports Podcast on Sunday during NFL Sunday Ticket. Receive 10% off your bill during NFL Sunday Ticket Sundays. We're there live every Sunday, 9:30 to 10:30 every morning. First half hour will be with sound inside the restaurant. The rest will be on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, as we are all the time with you as well. All right, complete look at Thursday Night Football. How about those Carolina Panthers? Who gave you the Carolina Panthers yesterday? This guy did. 25-15, the Panthers beat the Falcons. 2.5-point underdog. I bought it up to 3. I still wasn't sure going into the game. With the game being 25-15, it was very, 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 very close for the second half. With the total, let me get to this here real quick. Producing, as I said, producing by yourself. All right, as we said, Carolina beats up Atlanta 25-15. Panthers win as a 2.5-point underdog. I bought it up to 3 with the total staying under 41.5. How about Carolina? 232 yards rushing. Dante Foreman, 130 yards with 1 touchdown. Atlanta combined rushed for 138 yards. Very physical game last night. Very wet game. Walker only 100 yards passing, 106 yards passing. Mariota, 125 yards with a touchdown and an interception. But Atlanta comes up short. They fall to 4-6. They're in second place behind Tampa. Now a full game back as Tampa Bay plays on Sunday morning in Germany. Our time Sunday morning, 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 a.m. in Germany against the Seattle Seahawks, 2 first-place teams going at it. Speaking of Week 10, let's talk about that a little bit. Seattle visiting Tampa Bay in Germany early Sunday. 2 other first-place teams, the Vikings and Bills. Josh Allen still questionable with that ulnar nerve. Case Keenum, the backup for Buffalo. He's got a connection with Stephon Diggs. Those of you Saints fans that are unhappy to remember that. Those of you Vikings fans that are happy to remember that. Adam Thielen, questionable. Chargers visit San Francisco Sunday night. Santa Clara, actually. Sunday Night Football for them. Dallas tries to extend the Packers' woes. Justin Fields tries to continue his good play versus Detroit. Patrick Mahomes, the leading candidate for MVP right now, plus 175. They host Jacksonville, do the Chiefs. Jeff Saturday coaches his first game for the Colts versus the Raiders in Las Vegas. And Arizona visits L.A. Very interesting lines as we see coming up on the scoreboard here. As you can see, the lines going across Tampa Bay and Seattle, Kansas City, Jacksonville. The Giants play Houston, New Orleans at Pittsburgh. The Bears host the Lions. Miami hosting Cleveland. And then Buffalo hosting Minnesota. Tennessee hosting Denver in the afternoon. Talked about the Raiders hosting Indianapolis. The Rams are hosting the Cardinals. Dallas at Green Bay. Sunday Night Football, the 49ers and the Chargers. And then Monday night, don't sleep on the Washington Commanders. Philadelphia, an 11-point favorite there as well. All right, NCAA news. As you see the ticker go across, Georgia will be at Mississippi State. Ohio State hosting Indiana. Michigan and Nebraska, the TCU Horned Frogs at Texas. Tennessee versus Missouri. Oregon versus Washington. LSU versus Arkansas. Alabama at Mississippi. Clemson, Louisville. UCLA, Arizona. Utah, Stanford. Penn State, Maryland. Continue on. UNC, Wake Forest in the ACC. North Carolina State, BC, also ACC. The American Conference, Tulane at 17 versus UCF. K-State, Baylor. Notre Dame, Navy. Illinois, Purdue. Florida State, Syracuse, and Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Some of the other conferences, and we'll have a full preview tomorrow, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific. Duke, Tech, Virginia at Pittsburgh, Miami, Georgia in the American, USF, SMU, Houston, Temple. Those are the other games. They all pay 110 to 100, by the way. So these games are all as important as the top 25s. Maybe not in the BCS rankings, but they all count. West Virginia, Oklahoma, the Big 12. Oklahoma State at home versus Iowa State. Texas Tech versus Kansas. Kansas, a bowl bid. Big 10, Michigan State, Rutgers, Iowa, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Northwestern, of course, Michigan, Ohio State are the class of the Big 10 right now. The West Division of the Big 10 is where all is happening. Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, all a game back of Illinois in the conference. Illinois has only lost to Indiana. Mountain West, Air Force, New Mexico State, Colorado State, Wyoming, Reno, Boise State 5-0 in conference. In the Mountain Conference, San Diego State, San Jose State, Hawaii, and Utah State as well. In the Pac-12, the other games, Washington State, Arizona State, Ohio State, and Cal. And the SEC, Florida is playing South Carolina. They're an 8-point favorite on Auburn, Texas A&M for the SEC. Again, a full preview tomorrow at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock on the West Coast, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio in downtown San Jose. All right, when we come back, we'll talk a little more NCAA football. We got 3 games tonight to go on, especially that Fresno State UNLV game and Cincinnati hosting East Carolina. We'll get to those in 30 seconds, and then we'll hit the NBA. Back in 30, Vasu Party here with the VPartySports Podcast, sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio in downtown San Jose. Welcome back to the VPartySports Podcast, brought to you by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose. Check our live broadcast out every Sunday. Come in and mention the podcast during NFL Sunday Ticket. Receive 10% off your entire bill. All right, college football, we continue. We got a preview of tomorrow. We'll have a full preview for tomorrow's games at 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, right here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can reach me at VPartySports. Any comments, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. All right, tonight in the NCAA, in the American, Cincinnati, a 4.5-point favorite over Eastern Carolina. Cincinnati 4-1, tied with Central Florida at 4-1. UCF has the tiebreaker on them by beating them 2 weeks ago, 25-21. Tulane undefeated in the conference. How about that? 5-0. They're plus 56 in point differential. They've got UCF tomorrow. That's a big game for first place there. But Cincinnati at 4-1 right there, plus 18-point differential, 7-2 overall, 4-1 in conference. And then East Carolina at 3-2, not that far out of it, but they are a game behind. And East Carolina has plus 25 in point differential. They are 3-2 in the conference. Cincinnati 4-1 overall. A good game tonight for Friday Night Football as we get to it. All right, and then Fresno State at UNLV. In the Mountain West, Fresno State leads the Western Division. They both are 4-1. They're 4-1 with San Jose State. The head-to-head tiebreaker against San Jose State, they beat them earlier, gives Fresno State the lead. Of course, Boise State at 5-0. They hold a 1-game lead over Wyoming. Wyoming at Colorado State tomorrow night, 8.5-point favorite. So those 4 teams battling out. And maybe don't forget about San Diego State possibly getting into this. They have 2 losses in conference. San Jose State will play San Diego State. But Fresno State, 9.5-point favorite at UNLV. UNLV has been awful this year. 51 points, negative differential, 89 scored in 5 games, 140 given up. Fresno plus 65 in conference games. UNLV 2-3. 9.5-point favorite on the road. Is that too much? In college football, it seems like too much these days. 61.5 might be high as well, too. UNLV has not scored very much in the last few games. Fresno State's defense has been shut down the last 3 weeks. Again, plus 65 in point differential. And then this game in the Pac-12, boy, 34 points, USC versus Colorado. I get it. It's a powerhouse team right now, but defense in the Pac-12 has been very shaky at best. USC gave up 35 points to Arizona. They gave up 43 to Utah. They have given up points this year. Arizona State even got some points on them as well, too. Very interesting, 34 points. Colorado 1-8, USC 8-1 overall. USC 6-1. They're half a game back of Oregon, who was undefeated in conference at 6-0. Boy, that Georgia game for Oregon seems like a long time ago, because here they are now making up and getting to the number 6 spot. USC at 8, 6-1. UCLA 5-1. They're number 12. They've got Arizona tomorrow night, and then Washington 4-2. Utah 5-1 as well too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 teams vying it out for the Pac-12 conference. It'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out with the South and North divisions of the Pac-12 as we go forward with this. But 34 points, we know how college football is. Even Colorado scored 10 points against Oregon last week. They barely stayed in the game. It was over pretty fast. And even then, Oregon was a 30-point favorite. They still covered by 39, by 5 points. So it's not very much. And to see USC at home laying 34 points where they've given up points at home, that's going to be a tough call. The total is 66. We know how defenses are in the Pac-12. It'll be interesting to see if this total reaches the over or not. We'll give you our best bet segment for the day for college football for tonight, as well as the NBA. But those are the 3 college games tonight. UC versus ECU in the American Conference, 4.5 for UC, 51.5. USC 34 versus Colorado, 66 the total. Fresno State laying 9.5 at UNLV, 61.5 the total. It hasn't been a great year for the Mountain West in terms of covering point spreads, but that's the way it goes right now. All right, moving on, and we'll get to the best bet segment in a minute, but I wanted to go on to the NBA. Last night, 4 games in the NBA. Washington Wizards, even without Bradley Beal, they upset the Dallas Mavericks 113-105. Dallas has lost 3 straight now. They get beat as a 5-point favorite, the Mavericks were, and Washington came back to bite them. Atlanta, after losing to the Jazz 2 nights ago, the red-hot Utah Jazz, they are a 104-95 victories over the Philadelphia 76ers. Sixers struggling. One of the plays that I almost put on the board last night, I said a possible. I did not post it, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but Charlotte Hornets cover 10.5 against Miami. The game goes to overtime. The Heat 117-112. The Heat are now 2-10 against the spread this year overall. And then Portland, a 9-point underdog. They still have Jeremy Grant. They may not have Lillard in the lineup, but Jeremy Grant and the Portland Trailblazers are now, I believe they're 9 wins. They've got 9 wins. They're 9-3, a half a game back of those Utah Jazz. They have the second most wins in the NBA, and they beat the New Orleans Pelicans in New Orleans 106-95. Some other news, Kyrie Irving may miss 3 more games. Everybody knows the reasons why. Not going to get into that. Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks are a 2-point underdog tonight at San Antonio, and he's out. I don't know if that makes that big of a difference. The Milwaukee Bucks are 10-1, and a lot of it is Giannis Antetokounmpo, but with him out, they just figure the Spurs will be the favorite tonight. And I think I saw that line drop down to 1. You can see the lines going at the bottom. Kawhi looks pretty good in workouts, according to head coach Tyronn Lue, but he'll miss his 10th straight game. And Nikola Vucevic and Desmond Bane each fined $15,000. Vucevic for an obscene gesture to the stands. Desmond Bane for kicking the ball into the stands. You can't do that. That's going to cost you. Come out of their next payroll check, $15,000 each. All right. As far as the NBA overall, the Bucks and Jazz lead the conference. Cavs, Celtics, and Hawks all with 8 wins, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in the Eastern Conference. Blazers get their 9th win last night over New Orleans. Still waiting for Damian Lillard. And then the Suns, Nuggets, and Grizzlies are all at 8 wins. Memphis plays Minnesota tonight. Denver's got a big game at Boston, and Phoenix is at Orlando, as you can see the lines going across. All right, let's get to those lines here real quick before we get to best bets segment. And then we'll get to some NCAA hoops a little bit. All right, the NBA, Phoenix, the 7.5-point favorite at Orlando, 217 the total. Orlando has won 2 straight. May or may not be with Banchero tonight. He turned 20 today. They had a big win over Dallas the other day. One of the early picks as a 7.5-point underdog to the Mavericks, 217 the total here. I saw it vary a little bit by a half point either way. Boston, that line started at 5. It's now down to 4 against the Denver Nuggets. Both teams have 8 wins. Both teams playing well. Boston struggles a little bit on the defensive end. They've given up a lot of points. They've lost 2 of their losses have come to the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are very good. They played Denver, 230.5 the total with a 4-point favorite. The Knicks 8.5 versus Detroit, 224.5. The Knicks got blown out by the Nets the other night, who were playing better even without Kyrie Irving. More cohesiveness. Jacques Vaughn named permanent coach. They did not go with Ime Udoka on that coaching staff. 224.5. Talked about San Antonio, Milwaukee. Milwaukee 10-1. No Giannis Antetokounmpo tonight. The Greek Freak will sit out this game, so it makes Milwaukee a 2-point underdog. When you're 10-1 and you're getting points, that's going to be pretty tough to turn down. But San Antonio can shoot, and they can score a lot of points. And even without Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Bucks have played well. 218.5 might be low for that game. Toronto, the Raptors, they came back against Houston the other night. 5-point favorite to Oklahoma City, who's played well at home. 219.5 the total there. Memphis 4 versus Minnesota, a matchup of last year's division series in the playoffs. Memphis, of course, you got to know about John Morant. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been out, but they've got guys on that team that can fill it up. 234 the total. Minnesota with Anthony Edwards. They've got guys that can fill it up. The Twin Towers of Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns have not performed up to snuff yet, as Minnesota is still 5-7. They're 10th in the Western Conference, and they've had a rough go getting cohesiveness going. Golden State, the Warriors. What's going on with the Warriors? They got their first win the other night after a 4-game losing streak. They host the Cleveland Cavaliers. We just said Cleveland is 8-3. They lost to the Sacramento Kings last night, 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago, they lost to the Sacramento Kings as a 4.5-point favorite. 232 the total. Golden State's defense has been awful. Even you look at their last few games, they've given up 70 points in first halves in a majority of their games. And then finally, the Lakers, no LeBron James tonight. They're a 4.5-point underdog. They are, I hate to say it as a Lakers fan, they're 2-9, 7 games back of the top spot, which it's early to go into that. It's only 11 games played. Sacramento, with that win over Cleveland, improved to 4-6. They are 2-3 on the road. They are 0-3 within the division, so that doesn't bode well for them. And 0-5 in the conference. They've gotten their 4 wins outside of conference. So that's your NBA lines for today. All right, when we come back, we'll talk a little college basketball. We share our best bet segment for the afternoon and evening for today. Don't forget tomorrow, 11 o'clock Eastern, NCAA football preview show all day. Tomorrow, before the games start, we'll give you all our best bets for Saturday as well, too. Sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose. Come by Sunday, see the live broadcast, 9:30 to 10:30. Receive 10% off your bill during the Sunday ticket. Back in 30 seconds, best bet segment, college basketball, and a little more to go into as far as the weekend goes. Vasi Vadaparty here with the VPartySports Podcast. See you in a second. Welcome back to the VPartySports Podcast, brought to you by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio in downtown San Jose. Come see our live broadcast Sunday. Get 10% off your entire bill. That includes alcohol. I want to shout out a couple of guys here. Appreciate it. Dino, how you doing, Dino? Smack Talk Sports. Hashtag Smack Talk Sports. So I will hashtag that. I know that group very well, and appreciate you following me. Get it, V. Trying to get some dollars here, Dino. So appreciate the comments very much. As we get back to the VPartySports Podcast, sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub. Carolina won last night. They're only 2 games back of the NFC South Championship. I don't think realistically they're not going to get there. Tampa Bay leading. They've got a big game with Seattle this weekend. But I gave the Carolina Panthers +2.5, +3 for me. Ended up getting there. Ended up making me look good last night. College football, top 25 games. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU all play. Tennessee, Oregon, LSU, Arkansas, LSU, Alabama, Clemson, Ole Miss, UCLA, and Utah, the first half of the top 25. And then UNC, Wake Forest, North Carolina State, BC, Tulane, UCF. That's an underrated game in the American Conference. I'll actually be keeping an eye out on that game. K-State and Baylor, Notre Dame, Navy. Notre Dame getting hot right now. Illinois, Purdue. Illinois can't score. Purdue can score. Defensively, they're weak. Florida State at Syracuse. Syracuse off to a hot start. Florida State getting better as we go on. In Kentucky, Vancouver. All right, again, a full preview of NCAA football all day tomorrow. You can download on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We'll be on live 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific. All right, best games to look at tonight. Well, let's get to the NCAA first. It's a little too early for pickups. We said for picks and best bet segment for the NCAA, a lot of cupcakes, as Dick Vitale always used to say, right now. 19 of the top 25 teams play tonight. Big one in San Diego on the USS Abraham on Veterans Day. By the way, thank you to all the servicemen and women for your past service, your present service, and your current service. Should have started out with that. That's much more important than anything I'm talking about right now. 19 of 25 teams play tonight. The USS Abraham hosts number 2 Gonzaga as they match up with Tom Izzo and Michigan State, not ranked, to open up the season for the first time in a long time. I'd really have to go back in the record books to see the last time Michigan State did not open a basketball season without having a rankings. Other NCAA games, University of Houston, a lot of people like them this year to win. I think it's 40 years to the year of when they lost to North Carolina State with Faisal Jama and Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler, Michael Young, those guys at Houston. But Jim Valvano had a game plan, beat them. Duke plays tonight. Their rivals North Carolina also play. In fact, I'll get you the NCAA right now. Top 25. Houston's got an early lead on St. Joseph, 12-5. So Michigan State, Gonzaga, we said. Duke, South Carolina Upstate, North Carolina plays Charleston. They're number 1 in the country is North Carolina. 40 years to their last number 1 ranking when they beat Georgetown on the Fred Brown, Aaron Pass, the James Worthy game-winning shot. Talk about dating myself right here. Kentucky, Duquesne. Kentucky number 4. Villanova, Temple. Don't sleep on Temple in this matchup with Villanova. The Philly Five, as they're called out there, those are rivalries that go way back. LaSalle, Temple, Penn, Villanova, and Duquesne, the 5 out there that battle every year. All the people out in the Philadelphia area know that for the history that goes with that. Dayton at number 24 hosts SMU. Baylor 5 hosts Norfolk State. The Arkansas Razorbacks are number 10. Eric Musselman had a good run last year. TCU 14 against Lamar. Auburn, South Florida. Alabama, Liberty. Arizona versus Southern, a SWAC Legacy Series. So that's going to be a neutral court. Virginia, Monmouth. Michigan and Eastern Michigan. Illinois versus Kansas City. BYU will go to San Diego State, who's ranked 19th. Long Beach State goes to number 8, UCLA. And UC Irvine is at number 21, Oregon, tonight, late night in the Pac-12, not only for football, but for basketball as well, too. 4 games in the NHL. Pittsburgh at Toronto, good matchup there. Tampa Bay at Washington. The Alexander Ovechkin goal streak keeps going. San Jose Sharks, after a loss to St. Louis last night, they're in Dallas. And those red-hot Seattle Kraken, year 2 of the expansion for Seattle, the crowd is going crazy up there in Seattle. I forgot the name of the arena, but they're not paying me, so I don't have to say it. But the Seattle Kraken hosting the Minnesota Wild, who lost in a 1-0 game to the Kings on Wednesday night in Los Angeles. So they will be up in Seattle to take on the Kraken. All right. The segment that you're all waiting for, the best bet segment, as we wrap up the VPartySports Podcast, sponsored by the Brit Sports Pub and Patio, downtown San Jose. Don't forget to join us 11 a.m. Eastern for the NCAA full preview tomorrow. Talk a little NBA. We'll get a little NHL, but it's mostly NCAA football as we wrap up the last 3 weeks of the college football season before bowls start. Conference championships, then bowls, then the BCS playoffs. In college football, I like the Cincinnati Bearcats. 4.5-point favorite doesn't seem like a lot to me. I've watched them play this year. They gave Arkansas a tough time early in the year on the road. They're at home. They have East Carolina, and it's a big deal for Cincinnati because, as we said, if they can stay in it, they only have 1 loss, and they are 4-1 in conference. They're even with UCF, but they lose out to UCF on the head-to-head. Tulane 5-0. So if Tulane wins, they'll go to 6-0, and they'll be ahead of everybody else. But if UCF wins tomorrow, they will have the tiebreaker over Cincinnati. But Cincinnati will still be in the race. Everybody will have 1 loss in the conference. And then SMU, ECU, East Carolina 3-2, SMU 3-2, and the University of Houston 3-2 as well. But a big game for Cincinnati tonight. East Carolina comes in 4.5-point favorites for the Cincinnati Bearcats. That's my best bet in college football. In the NBA, both teams are 8-3, but the Denver Nuggets are 3-1 on the road against the spread as an underdog. Actually, 3-1 overall as an underdog. I don't think they've lost on the road as an underdog at all. So they're going into Boston. We know the Celtics are tough. They've given up points, though. 2 of their losses have been to Cleveland. So this will be a tough one for Denver. But obviously, there's a lot of people out there that think that Denver's going to cover because this line has come down from 5 all the way down to 4. It didn't even stop at 4.5. It just shot straight through to +4. Memphis Grizzlies at home. Very solid team at home. Minnesota struggling 5-7. Minnesota's height might give Memphis a little trouble, but they can score. We all saw John Morant. -4 on Memphis tonight. That game at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 on the West Coast, ESPN. But a good game between Memphis and Minnesota, a rematch of the playoff series last year. Talked about the Golden State Warriors. They are struggling. They did get a win against the Kings the other night, but they were down big to the Kings in the first half. And Steph Curry put them on their back as he's done so many times this year. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, after they lost to Sacramento on the road 2 nights ago, I think they're going to be focused. They're going to come in. They've got guys who can rebound. Donovan Mitchell has been torching the Warriors in his career with Utah. And I think that continues. 2.5, the Warriors have got to show they can play a little defense. They haven't done it yet. They've outscored teams. 2.5, give me Cleveland. Give me +2.5 on the Cavaliers tonight. Orlando Magic, Phoenix Suns. We just said Orlando beat Dallas, 7.5-point underdog against the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas lost last night again at Washington as a 5-point favorite. So that's a future conversation. But Phoenix plays good defense. Orlando doesn't score very much. The under 217, I've seen 216.5. But if you can get under 217, take the Orlando Magic, Phoenix Suns under 217. So you got 4 games in the NBA tonight. You got 1 college game with University of Cincinnati. Of course, we'll have our best bet segment tomorrow for Saturday, and then the live broadcast on Sunday from the Brit Sports Pub and Patio. I'm Vasi VParty. You can check me out at VPartySports on Twitter, Vasi VParty on Facebook and YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and on Instagram as well, too. We'll download and re-download and listen to these podcasts anytime you can on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Pass them on to your buddies and friends, sports wagers, fantasy football guys, sports viewing pleasure, just fans of teams. I'm here to give you all the information that the pregame shows, that the TV shows don't do. We're here to give it to you straight, and that's what I try to do every day. 4 times a week, starting next week, Mondays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. Mondays, Thursdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. Fridays as well, too. We'll have a show for you as well, too, recapping Thursday Night Football. Any day that there's football right now for the next few weeks, we'll be on. So 4 to 5 days a week is what I anticipate. Thanks to everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for joining us. Thank you for the comments. Appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern for the NCAA preview show tomorrow, 8 a.m. on the West Coast on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Thanks again to everybody. I will see you soon. Vasi VParty for the VPartySports Podcast. Have a great evening. Good luck with your games. We'll see you soon. Take care.